The velvet weight of the tray was already making my wrists ache, but the weight of my father's voice was doing significantly more damage. Another round over here, sweetheart. Don't keep the board members waiting. My father, Robert, called out. He didn't even look at me. He was too busy adjusting his silk tie in the reflection of a gold-framed mirror. This was his ascension party. After 30 years of clawing his way up the ladder at Legacy Tech, he had finally been named CEO. The ballroom of the Pierre Hotel was a sea of black ties, expensive perfume, and the kind of laughter that sounds like breaking glass. Coming, Dad, I murmured. Not Dad tonight, Maya, he hissed as I moved past him with a fresh bottle of Krug. Tonight, I'm the CEO, you're just the help we could afford. Try to look a little more professional. Your hair is doing that frizzy thing again. I took a breath, feeling the cold condensation of the champagne bottle against my palm. He had no idea that the frizzy hair he was critiquing belonged to the person currently holding his entire empire together. For the last 3 years, I hadn't been Maya the failure, the daughter, who dropped out of his preferred law school to play with stocks. I was MK Sterling, the anonymous founder of Apex Equity, through a complex web of shell companies and a very talented legal team. I had built a venture firm that specialized in rescue funding, and boy, did Legacy Tech need rescuing. Is this the daughter you mentioned? A voice boomed. It was Julian Vane, the lead investor from a rival firm. He looked at me with a mix of pity and boredom. The one who struggled to find her footing. Robert let out a sharp, performative sigh. Internalized motivation is a rare gift, Julian. Some have it. Some need to be told where to stand. Maya is a helper. She's good at following a list. Aren't you, overachiever? A few of the executives chuckled. I felt the heat rise in my neck. I do what needs to be done to keep things moving, I said, my voice steady. It was a double meaning that flew right over his head. Exactly, Robert said, dismissively patting my shoulder before turning back to Vane. Now, about the Series C funding. I've been in talks with the managing partner at Apex Equity. They're a bit mysterious, but they've got the capital. I need to wipe out our debt and expand into the Asian market. The deal is 90% closed. I just need to sign the final papers on Monday. I stood there, 3 feet away, holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres while my father talked about my own money as if it were a God-sent miracle. He didn't realize that the mysterious partner had spent the last 6 hours reviewing Legacy Tech's disastrous Q3 audits. He didn't realize that the only reason Apex was even at the table was because I had a lingering, stupid hope that saving his company would finally make him look at me as a peer. You're lucky, Vane said. Apex is ruthless. If they're backing you, they must see something in your leadership. They see a winner, Robert bragged, taking a glass from my tray without even looking at me. They see the man who built this from nothing. They don't care about the background noise. He gestured vaguely at me, the background noise, and shooed me toward the kitchen. As I walked away, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my lead counsel, finalizing the wire transfer. Documents for Legacy Tech. Just need your digital signature to authorize the $50 million. Ready when you are, boss. I looked at the screen, then at my father, who was currently mocking my little boutique job to a group of bankers. Not yet, I whispered to the empty hallway. He hasn't finished his speech yet. The party shifted from celebration to coronation, and as the room grew louder, my father's ego grew sharper. To him, I wasn't just a helper anymore. I was a prop he could use to make himself look even more imposing. Maya, the caviar blinis are stagnant. Move them, he barked from across the room. He didn't use a stage whisper. He wanted the board members to see how disciplined his household was. I moved through the crowd, the silver tray feeling heavier with every step. I saw the way the wives of the VPS looked at me, half pity, half disgust. To them, I was the 30-something daughter who couldn't cut it, the one who had to come crawling back to daddy for a gig serving appetizers. The peak of the night arrived when Marcus Thorne, a notorious shark in the tech world and a man my father desperately wanted to impress, accidentally bumped into a passing waiter. A glass of red wine shattered, splattering dark, blood-like stains across the white marble floor and Thorne's Italian leather shoes. The room went silent. "God damn it," Robert hissed. He looked around, his eyes landing on me like a predator. He didn't call for the hotel staff. He wanted to make a point. "Maya, get over here now." I walked over, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Dad, the hotel janitorial staff is right there." "I didn't ask for the janitor," he snapped, his face reddening. "I asked my daughter to help." "You're already wearing the apron, aren't you? Show some initiative for once in your life. Clean it up before it stains the stone." He handed me a linen napkin, a decorative, useless piece of fabric. I looked him in the eye. "You want me to get on my knees and scrub the floor in the middle of your party? It's what you're suited for, isn't it?" he whispered, leaning in so only I could hear. "You couldn't handle the pressure of the firm I set up for you. You couldn't handle law. This is your level, Maya. Accept it and be useful." A few people shifted uncomfortably, but no one defended me. Why would they? Robert was the man with the $50 million check coming. He was the king. I felt a cold, crystalline clarity settle over me. The stupid hope I'd felt earlier, the hope that he'd love me if I saved his legacy, evaporated. I knelt. The marble was freezing. I felt the wetness of the wine soak into my slacks as I began to blot the floor. The sound of the party resumed above my head, a dull roar of elite chatter. From down here, at shoe level, they all looked like giants. But I knew the truth. They were giants standing on a floor made of my money. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. BZZ, BZZ. I reached in with my clean hand and pulled it out. A notification from my firm's internal Slack channel. "Urgent, Robert Miller, Legacy Tech just sent an aggressive follow-up. He's demanding we waive the final audit and wire the funds by midnight to clear the books. Should we proceed?" I looked at my father's polished shoes, inches from my face. He was laughing at a joke Thorne had made, his foot accidentally kicking a shard of glass toward my hand. "Hurry up, Maya," he said, not even looking down. "You're blocking the path to the bar." I stood up, the damp napkin balled in my fist. I didn't say a word. I didn't cry. I didn't even look angry. "I'm finished," I said quietly. Finally, Robert sighed. "Go to the kitchen and stay there. I'll have someone send you your pay in the morning." I walked away, but I didn't go to the kitchen. I walked straight to the coat check, grabbed my trench coat, and stepped out onto the balcony overlooking the city. The cool night air hit my face, smelling of rain and exhaust. I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over the approve button for a second. Then I swiped left. I opened a new message to my legal team. "Cancel the wire. Trigger the reputational risk clause. I've just conducted an on-site evaluation of the CEO's character. He's a liability. We're out." All the way out, I hit send. Inside, I could hear the muffled sound of my father starting his big speech. He was thanking the visionaries who believed in him. He had no idea that the visionary he was looking for was currently standing in the dark, watching his empire turn into a ghost ship. I didn't stay to hear the end of his speech. I didn't need to. I knew the script. He'd talk about grit, legacy, and unwavering standards, all while the man who actually owned the shoes he was standing in was me. I hailed a cab and sat in the back, the city lights blurring into long, golden streaks against the window. My phone was a live wire in my hand. Message from Milo, my head of operations, Maya, confirming, "You want to pull the entire Series C? If we drop out now, the other investors will smell blood in the water. Legacy Tech will be in a free fall by Monday morning. Me, let it fall, and Milo, start shorting their stock through the subsidiary. If he wants to treat me like a helper, I'll help him find the bottom of the market." By the time I reached my apartment, the one he thought was a drab little studio but was actually a 4,000 square foot penthouse he'd never been invited to. The adrenaline was starting to fade, replaced by a cold, surgical precision. I sat at my desk, the glow of 3 monitors illuminating the room. I opened the legacy tech file. It wasn't just a company to him, it was his god. He had tied his entire identity to this promotion and this expansion. He had even used his personal estate as collateral for a bridge loan, betting everything on the Apex equity infusion. He had bet his life on a daughter he didn't even recognize. My phone rang. It was him. I let it go to voicemail. Maya, where the hell did you go? The catering lead is asking why you walked off. Unbelievable. Even a simple job is too much for you. Anyway, don't bother coming by tomorrow. I'm busy preparing for the signing. Apex just sent a cryptic email about internal restructuring, but I'm sure it's just lawyer talk. Stay out of the way. I played the message twice. Stay out of the way, I whispered. Gladly. Over the next week, I watched the slow-motion car crash from the safety of my glass office. Monday came. The signing didn't happen. My legal team sent a formal notice of non-participation. We didn't give a reason, not yet. In the world of high finance, silence is more terrifying than a no. It implies you found a body buried in the books. Tuesday, the rumors started. Legacy tech stock dipped 8%. Wednesday, the other investors, the sharks from the party, started pulling their term sheets. They figured if Apex, the smartest money in the room, was out, there must be a fire. By Friday, my father was calling me 10 times a day. His voice on the voicemails shifted from arrogant to confused to downright terrified. Maya, pick up, please. I don't know what's happening. The Apex people won't take my calls. I've lost the Asian expansion. If this funding doesn't clear by the 30th, the bank is going to trigger the personal guarantee on the house. Do you have any of those finance friends you used to talk about? Can you ask anyone what's going on? I sat in my chair, spinning a pen between my fingers. I could have ended it then. I could have taken his call and told him, but he needed to feel the full weight of the background noise. I waited until the following Monday, the day his company's credit rating was officially downgraded to junk status. I opened a fresh email draft. I didn't use the Apex corporate letterhead. I used my personal account, the one he used to send me motivational articles about how to be a better administrative assistant. Subject, the helper. I typed the word slowly, feeling every bit of the wine-soaked napkin I had held in that ballroom. Dear Robert, I didn't use Dad. You mentioned at the party that you were looking for a winner to back you. After a thorough evaluation of your leadership style, specifically your inability to value the people right in front of you, Apex Equity has decided that you are a liability we can no longer afford to subsidize. One attached the formal withdrawal papers, signed in bold, digital ink. Maya Miller, managing partner. I hit send and turned off my phone. The silence that followed the send button was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. For a few minutes, I just sat there, watching the snow start to drift past my penthouse windows. I imagined the ping in his office, the little notification that usually signaled his salvation, now carrying his professional obituary. The explosion happened exactly 42 minutes later. My phone didn't just ring, it screamed. My father's name flashed across the screen over and over. I ignored the first 6 calls. On the 7th, I picked up. I didn't say hello. I just waited. Maya, his voice was unrecognizable. It was thin, reedy, the sound of a man who had just seen a ghost. Maya, what is this? I just got an email. Some sick joke from your account. It says you're Apex. It says you're the one who killed the deal. It wasn't a joke, Robert, I said. My voice was as cold as the marble I'd knelt on. It was an executive decision. You can't be Apex, he stammered. I could hear the sound of paper rustling. He was likely gripping the printout so hard it was tearing. Apex is a multi-billion-dollar fund. You were a dropout. You were helping at the party. I was evaluating. I corrected him. I've spent 3 years building Apex in the dark. because I knew if you found out, you'd try to colonize it. You'd try to manage me into the ground. So I waited. I watched you struggle. And I actually came to that party prepared to sign the papers. I had the stylus in my hand. Robert, I was going to save you. Then why? He roared, his voice cracking. Because of a spilled drink? Because of a joke? Maya, this is business. You don't take a Fortune 500 company because your feelings were hurt. It wasn't about my feelings, I said, standing up and walking to the window. It was about risk assessment. A CEO who humiliates his own blood to impress a room full of strangers is a CEO with an ego larger than his judgment. You're a liability. You're cruel when you think people are beneath you, and you're a coward when you realize they aren't. That's not a winner. That's a bad investment. I'm your father, and I was the help. I reminded him. The help just quit, and she's taking her $50 million with her. I hung up. The next 48 hours were a bloodbath. With Apex officially out, the shark investors didn't just leave. They started a feeding frenzy. Legacy Tech's board of directors called an emergency session. By Wednesday morning, the news hit the Wall Street Journal ticker. Legacy Tech CEO Robert Miller ousted amidst funding collapse and integrity review. The morality clause I had triggered was the final nail. It allowed the board to fire him for cause, meaning he wouldn't get his multi-million-dollar gold and parachute. He was leaving with nothing but the debt he'd racked up to look important. I spent the morning in my office, signing the paperwork to begin a hostile takeover of his remaining assets. I wasn't doing it out of spite. I was doing it because the company actually had good engineers who didn't deserve to lose their jobs because of one man's ego. Around 4 p.m., my assistant buzzed in. There is a man in the lobby, Ms. Miller. He doesn't have an appointment. He says he's your father. He looks ... and well, I looked at the security feed. He was wearing the same suit from the party, but it looked 3 sizes too big now. He was slumped in a designer chair, staring at the Apex Equity logo on the wall, the logo he'd spent months chasing, never realizing his daughter had designed it on her kitchen table. Send him up, I said, but Milo, give me 5 minutes. I want him to wait. When the elevator doors hissed open, the man who stepped out wasn't the king of Legacy Tech. He looked diminished, his shoulders hunched as if he were trying to hide from the very air in the room. He stopped at the threshold of my office, his eyes traveling over the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Eames chairs, and the sleek, minimalist power that defined my world. Maya, he said, his voice barely a whisper. I didn't stand up. I stayed behind my desk, framed by the skyline of the city he had just lost. Sit down, Robert. He flinched at the name but sat. He looked at the silver nameplate on my desk. M.K. Sterling, managing partner. I didn't know, he started, his hands shaking on his knees. How could I have known? You never told me you were doing ... this. I told you I was starting a fund 3 years ago, I said calmly. You told me to stop playing with my allowance and go back to being a paralegal. You didn't know because you never bothered to listen to any sentence I finished. I was trying to toughen you up, he snapped, a flash of the old Robert appearing for a second before flickering out. The corporate world is a meat grinder. Maya, I thought if you couldn't handle me, you couldn't handle them. And yet, I leaned forward. I'm the one sitting in a chair, and you're the one asking for a meeting. He looked away, his face twisting. The bank called this morning. They're foreclosing on the Greenwich house. The board, they stripped my stock options. I'm ruined, Maya, completely. I have nothing left. He looked at me then, a desperate, sickening hope in his eyes. The kind of look a man gives a lottery ticket. You have the power to fix this. One press release, one statement saying the withdrawal was a clerical error, and the Apex is back in. You can save your family's name. My name is doing just fine, I said. I pulled a folder from my drawer and slid it across the desk. I'm not saving your company, Robert. I'm buying it. Or rather, Apexes. We're acquiring legacy tax assets for pennies on the dollar through the liquidation court. He opened the folder. His face went pale. You're gutting it. I'm restructuring it. I'm keeping the engineers. I'm keeping the product. But the leadership, the culture of minimization you built, that's being incinerated. Starting with you. He stood up, his chair screeching against the floor. You'd really do this? You'd watch your own father lose everything just to prove a point about a party. It wasn't about the party. Dad, I said, using the word for the first time. It felt heavy and bitter. The party was just the final data point. You spent 20 years telling me I was just a helper. You taught me that the person holding the tray doesn't matter. Well, you were wrong. The person holding the tray sees everything. They see who's weak. They see who's cruel. And eventually, they decide when to stop serving. I stood up, signaling the end of the meeting. I've instructed my legal team to set up a small annuity for you. It's not a CEO's salary, but you won't be on the street. It's enough for a modest apartment, maybe a studio, something on your level. As you put it. He stared at me, realization finally sinking in. The power dynamic hadn't just shifted. It had been deleted and rewritten. He wasn't the mentor. He wasn't the king. He was a line item in my budget. Yeah, please. I have a 4:30. Robert, I said, looking back down at my monitor. Sarah will show you out. As he walked toward the elevator, his head down, I heard him stop at my assistant's desk. He looked lost, unsure of how to even exit the building he'd spent his life trying to own. I picked up my phone and dialed Sarah. Yes, boss. The acquisition of Legacy Tech is greenlit. And Milo? Yes, post the job opening for the new regional manager, but make sure the HR filters are set. I want someone who knows how to treat the staff. I hung up, looked out at the city, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a helper. I felt like the owner of the world.